And so I want to have a minute or two reflection. For those people who've been in the project, this is an opportunity just to think and look backwards before we look forwards to the new school year and to have that reflection. For colleagues who haven't been in the project, this is where I want us to think just more broadly about where we are in our school and our practice and departments in terms of literacy development, in terms of accessing the curriculum. So the questions about what we think is going well. Every school focuses on reading and aspects of writing, but sometimes it just doesn't quite get to that depth we need. What has surprised us? What have we intelligently adapted over the last 6 months, the last 1 year, the life of the project? What new challenges have arisen recently, and what could we improve further? And any reflections in the chat will be really welcome, because I can kind of riff off those and reflect upon those. I'm particularly interested in what we've intelligently adapted and those new challenges, because as we look forward, it's thinking, well, what do we do next? Do we need to do some of that stuff we've already been trying for 1.5 years? Do we need some new stuff to keep people interested and motivated? But those questions, quite a broad span, it's a point for reflection. Where are we now with opening up our curriculum, words for all, reading, writing, and more? So over to you. I'll stop talking and we'll just have 2 minutes, and I'll give people a little 30-second prompt after that time.
Everybody's obviously feeling a bit shy today. Lisa, in the face-to-face room in Bolton, do you have any thoughts from there to kick us off?
It's 30 more seconds.
Just coming in from the sort of Bolton room, we've had a lot of things shared today. A lot of the Bolton team are going to be concentrating on the disciplinary aspects of sort of how they can get young people to acquire more high complex texts going forward, how they can increase the amount of reading in discipline in different areas, different subject areas. Also how they can use teacher expertise as a strength there. So sort of the sort of high quality texts in sort of geography, physics, etc. Just speaking about, we've also had a bit of a debate on the table I was on about reading aloud. And how reading aloud is structured, the time for reading aloud, when the reading aloud is, making sure that you're not doing any harm with any of your reading aloud strategies. And we were just talking about with or without the book was another thing that we were getting in. And just for your information as well, we've had a look at the Impact Ed research which came out today. So this idea that young people, regardless of age, so in Key Stage 4 and 5, how they still need adult-led reading and support and advice and time to talk about reading. So that's possibly new challenges that have arisen, sort of post sort of the last 2 years, looking at that definite research that it's good for their mental health and well-being, but it needs to be explicit and deliberate.
Thank you, Lisa. So there's quite a few things there. If you don't mind, I'll just unpick a couple of them, because I think, again, it's worth getting underneath these challenges and some of the specifics here. So that first point around challenging texts on a subject specific level. So there's a real opportunity here, as we've stated, to involve subject leaders, subject experts. We might have a kind of a team of champions who are identifying how we can develop and make sure that high quality reading's happening in every subject area. But we often run into barriers. I work with lots of secondary schools where that feels like, to some subjects, a bit extraneous, a bit of a bolt-on to what they do, when actually it's finding out where's the available curriculum time. And actually in subjects like science and subjects like geography, where with the current texts can we ensure that they're being fully accessed? So it might be worksheets in science. Are they appropriately scaffolded? Are they challenging enough? Or are we simplifying too much down to the PowerPoint, on a regular basis? So there's a real opportunity in engaging our subject teams, but we need to give them a clear brief. We need to make sure that they feel there's professional development time and also curriculum time to do this. So the biggest challenge that I hear, regularly, history teachers, science teachers, geography, well, we haven't got any spare time to do this reading, and it feels like a bit of an extra. Well, actually, I think one of the realities of success at GCSE and A-level is that we expect a lot of cumulative reading that's stuck, and that's where a lot of our knowledge and vocabulary comes from, that reading diet we have in lessons. And teachers, often unconsciously, can be simplifying the reading, getting rid of more extended 500-word texts and reducing those down to a quick presentation to get through the topic. So we need to reflect on what we already do. It's not about creating this whole new reading curriculum that happens outside of our working lessons. It's about thinking of all those opportunities, thinking about our existing schemes of learning, thinking about what are the barriers for some of our pupils with complex texts. And of course, the scaffolds, where are the stopping points? What support do teachers need to be able to read aloud with confidence? And the second topic came up around this reading aloud and adult reading in particular. So it's really common now in the last couple of years, you can't read many Ofsted reports without hearing about kind of whole class reading. And I think I've seen lots of different examples, but I think there's some active ingredients that are really necessary each time. So that support and choice of texts rather than just leaving it down to independent choice, particularly for struggling readers, because they don't make good choices around reading. But then when we do create our trust canon or our school selection of texts in each year group, then it's thinking, okay, how do we break this down? What support do teachers need? So sometimes it's little summary resources. Sometimes it's, if we've got behind by a chapter or two, how do we get back online? How do we have that space within the school year? So it's getting underneath these seemingly best practices, but what are the active ingredients that are really necessary, and making sure that every pupil is exercising those opportunities. One of the potential dangers of whole class reading, whole school reading, is that the reading rich get richer and the reading poor get poorer. That those pupils who are reading a really tricky, complex text bring more knowledge to it, more vocabulary, so they get a better understanding of it and they remember more of it. Now, there's no easy fix here, but there is a clear recognition that for our pupils who are struggling readers, who are our 20%, or pupils who just don't have that habit outside the school gates of reading or those familial supports, how are we trying to equalize their experience and maximize their experience? And we've just some comments in the chat as well. So this trialing again of reading aloud in English time, trial of students without students having the book. I don't think there's evidence that there's a perfect way of reading aloud. It's about making really conscious choices. So an adult reading aloud fluently, a good Goldilocks text, not too easy, but not too hard, just right, challenging enough to learn new ideas, new language, new vocabulary. So making those choices, being specific, and really getting underneath what we think works in our context, and being open when it's not quite working. Are the teachers who are grumbling that this whole class reading just isn't working? And A positive comment there from Lydia. Those in year 3 and 4 of the project now have students demanding good vocabulary teaching and high quality reading. So there's something here about the evolution of how do we keep on moving forward. You know, we've probably made lots of changes about high quality texts, but within any given school, we'll have some departments that have had turnover. You know, they've had turnover, curriculum shifts, you know, challenges of absence, staff absence, etc. So even though we might have a good whole school model or trust model, where are those weak spots that we need additional support? So hopefully things are going well. And despite all the impact of the pandemic, we can see light in terms of the next school year and choices we can build upon.